Hello Drone Racers, I'm Mark, and today on Drone Racer 101 I'm going to finally answer one of my most frequently asked questions. Which $300 goggles should you buy? Now you can also start really low with the EV800Ds, that's a clear choice. If you want to go $500, it's pretty much the HDOs, that's your only choice. But right there in the middle where a lot of us live, there are a lot of choices, and now it's almost a $250 option, especially with Black Friday right now. So what I've done is create a 100-point system, and I have seven pairs of goggles that I'm gonna go through and show you step by step which one I think has the best warranty. I'm gonna rate it based off quality of the screen, off of field of view, off of the band scanner. I'll go through all the steps here in just a second, but if you wanna know what are the best goggles? Well, this may or may not tell you, because goggles are the most personal decision you will ever make in FPV. Everyone has a different opinion. Everybody thinks everybody else's opinion is wrong. So this is my opinion, but hopefully you can use this and kind of the scale that I've got and apply that to your own personal preferences. And if one thing is a little more important than another, well, at least you'll see here how they compare, because like of these three, which one's the best? It varies. All three of these are really, really good. Some of the other choices are really good and some of them aren't, and we'll cover that too. So here are the contenders. We have the FatShark Attitude V2, which was really the only option for budget goggles. It's the only one of these that were created specifically as budget goggles, in comparison with the Dominator V3s. These were the prime FatShark goggles for a while, the prime non-HD goggles. We had these and we had the Dominator HD versions, but in this price range, it's the Dominator V3s. We have the Aomway Commanders that really changed this market. It was an all FatShark market for the most part, except with some Skyzone, until the Aomways came and almost took over for a while. Speaking of the Skyzones, we have the Skyzone V2. These are the V2s, not the V3s. These don't have quite all the features as some of the others, but the question is whether it's needed, and we'll talk about that. We have the Topsky, man, they went all out trying to make a competitive set of goggles, and the specs looked amazing, but how are they going to rank on this list with all this competition? Kind of the same thing for the Falcons. The Falcons came out and looked great with the specs and everything was good, but are people still talking about them? Do they still rate? And then the newcomer, the Eachine EV200D that everyone was so excited about. The only one here with quad diversity. So how does it rate with the comparisons? So I mentioned we have a 100-point scale here. The first 8 of these are 10 points. So we have 10 points available for screen quality, warranty, reception, video reception, cost, how they cost relative to the others, field of view, DVR, comfort on the face. Now this is using my face. The band scanner, if that's important to you, that's definitely ranks up there for me. And then I have 4 5-point scales for fogging. How is the fogging on them when you're wearing them? Comfort on your forehead, which is different than comfort on your face. I walk around with these on my forehead a lot. The battery that they come with, how good is it and how does it rate? And then other accessories is also a 5-point scale, because that can actually vary the price quite a bit. Now, this took me a long while to get out because I just couldn't decide on how I want to do it. I'd love to get every one of these out and show you comparisons side by side on a bench in a row with a camera stuck up in them, but what I'm going to do is actually use the footage I recorded from each of these for comparisons, because honestly, for things like screen quality, you can't tell anyway. It's all subjective. So I think what I'm going to do here is we'll go through category by category, starting with screen quality, and there's the screen quality score. So going from the top, we have the EV200Ds. If screen quality is the most important thing for you, of all of these, those look the best to me. Now I think this could partially be related to field of view, because they have a bigger field of view than most of the others, but they're a different screen. They're the same type of screen as the Topsky, but the quality is just really good. To wear them, to look at them side by side, those look the best to me. Next up, with one that I think will surprise some people, are the Skyzones. I don't know the technical differences, but the Skyzones seem to have a cleaner picture. I see fewer pixels. On a lot of these, I can still see pixels because they're not HD. The Skyzones, everything just seems smoother. If I look at them side by side, the Skyzones have a cleaner, crisper, smoother picture to me. The Falcons were actually up there too. The Falcons have a very good screen quality. The looks of them were just really nice and I was really happy with what I saw. The Aomways aren't very far behind. There is just a little bit of a difference. For me personally, they don't look quite as good. When I'm flying in them, nothing looks quite as good in those as the others that I've already mentioned. Kind of the same way for the Dominators. The Dominators, they look good, don't get me wrong, they're not bad, but it's just not quite the same. The Topskys actually came in there pretty well too. The image itself looked good. This was actually one of their best categories because they did well in that. And the screens, I think it's really hit or miss. So some people have talked about rainbow effects on both of these. I didn't experience that with either one, and they looked really good. And then we have the Attitude V4s. I don't know if my set was a dud. I just couldn't ever get these to look good. My set just had lots of problems, and I felt just bad wearing them. Now, they are a big 4x3 screen, and outside they did better, and with other modules they did better, but they just, So screen quality might be the most important part for some people, and if that is the case, this is a category you'll have to look at a lot, but hopefully this will help you decide. I see a lot of people asking and comparing between these two, and is the screen quality better on the EV200Ds than the Aomways? I think so. Warranty. So there's a clear winner here. I mean, the FatSharks, both of them, this is the Attitude's highest score. This is the Dominator's highest score. If you've been saving for 2 years to buy a set of goggles, and if something happens to them, you will be totally heartbroken and not able to fly, buy FatSharks. Buy FatSharks. Just like, okay, which of these should I buy? You should buy these right here, the Dominator V3s. This is one where I will make a clear case, because if something happens to them, FatShark will fix them. All the others are kind of hit or miss. I've heard a number of good cases from Skyzone. I've heard a couple bad cases, so I gave them a 5, kind of in the middle. Aomways, I've actually heard, Aomways have had very, very few failures from everything that I've heard, and that's the case for most of these. I've not heard of mass failures from any of these, but the Aomways I've also heard mostly good stories, but not all good stories from, so they ranked up there for warranty pretty well too. Flysight, I'm probably honestly just not fair. The 3, they're just new. It hasn't come up a lot. But in the discussions that I've had with them, I rank them pretty low. Same for Topsky. They're just a new kid on the block. They haven't had a chance to do as many warranty repairs, and it's just not going to be the same. It's just not going to be. You can't expect the same kind of warranty repair. And then Eachine notoriously is bad about repairs. If something happens, I'd give you a 10% chance of them getting it fixed. Now, I don't expect any problems with them in the lifespan of these goggles. We've had them a while now, and people have had good success with them, but if you have a problem, hopefully it happened right away and you can get Banggood to fix them, because they will, but trying to work with Eachine directly, I hope you don't have problems, and if you're really worried about that, buy the FatSharks. Reception. Reception is a tough one because it varies. What module are you using? That actually makes a bigger difference for most of these, but I still have found it makes a little bit of a difference across the board between them. My highest reception go to the EV200Ds, the Commanders, and the Dominator V3s. All those have, across the board, have been very consistent, very good. I haven't noticed any issues. The Flysights were only a little behind that. They are modular, you can change those out, but it didn't seem just quite the same to me. The Attitudes, the module that it came with was really bad. You can replace it, but I actually ranked it a little bit lower because the module in this is a lot harder to work with. That should probably fall under accessories, but you can change it in this, but it's a lot more difficult. The Skyzones are good enough for most cases, but there is a noticeable difference when I'm going back and forth between the Skyzones and some of the others. The Topskys, the module, here's what I did with that. And here, let me show you how to install it. Don't forget the cover. And even when I put a better module in it, it still just wasn't the same. It just wasn't as good. So cost relative to the price bracket. So this is all in comparison here. I'm not 100% up to date on here. So I kind of started with a 5 and went from there. When I created my scale, these were the ones that were always under $300. Now with your Commanders, you can get those right now for $240. Kind of the same for the Skyzones. These have become $250 goggles, at least right now on the Black Friday sale. The Falcons are a little bit more. The Topskys are all over the place. The Attitude
varies between super cheap at like $220 and $400. I don't understand their pricing. It depends on where you look. It seems to jump all over the place. A lot of places, if they have them at all, they're $350, so that would just knock those out. The Dominators have been pretty consistent right at $300, but we're starting to see them lower than that now. So things affect field of view more than just the size of the screen. It also depends on like what faceplate I end up having to use, what foam I end up having to use. For field of view, the EV200Ds take this because they have a nice big screen that looks really, really good. I didn't have any blurring on the corners. If I was testing something, I would try the Aomways and the Skyzones, and I'd put on the EV200Ds. It felt really large, and then I put those back on, and I felt like it just had a tiny screen by comparison. So for field of view, pretty clear the EV200Ds. The Topskys also have a very large field of view, but the edges seemed very blurry and it was hard for me to see all of it. So while the screens are also very large, it was difficult to look at. The Falcons weren't quite as big, but everything was super clear. Everything was really crisp. So they actually, I believe the field of view on the Falcons was actually smaller than the Topskys, but overall, the whole field of view looked better. The Dominator V3s was smaller, but very consistent. But the Aomways were just a little bit bigger from the feel of it, from the looks of it on my face. Again, this is one that should be measurable and exactly the same, but it depends on how your eyes line up. So it's not quite as cut and dry as the images that you see online that lay them all out side by side. The Skyzones were very middle of the road on that. For the DVR, there were several things that I looked at. Do they have a capacitor? So will they have a super cap so it will save even if you unplug accidentally? How does the quality look? Does it drop packets? Now this for me was a very big deal. As a reviewer, I need to be able to record DVR footage. I don't throw a GoPro on all my drones in order to fly them. I want you to see what it looks like in the goggles. To me, that's more important than seeing GoPro footage of another drone racing around because they all look the same. For this one, just barely taking it is the Dominator V3s. Because they have that cap now, so you're not going to accidentally lose your footage when you unplug. The quality looks good, the lost packets were minimal, and the overall footage from it looked good after the fact. But the Skyzone is also spectacular. I think it's actually a better quality from the looks of it after the fact, but it doesn't have that capacitor. So I have lost footage with the Skyzones when I'm recording if I don't forget to stop my recording before I unplug. The Attitude has good features too, but it ranks pretty low here because the quality of it just looked bad. The color I couldn't ever get to look proper. Going back to the Commanders, they actually do really well. I believe they have the capacitor to store. Everything looked good. Across the board, the DVR on the Commanders, and it's also very easy to access the playback. That's one of the good features here. If you need to access the playback a lot, like you crash and you can't find it, the Commander's DVR does a really good job at that. The EV200D's DVR is total crap. I mean, it's bad. You can barely see the footage. Oh, it's bad. It looks terrible. It's out of sync. These are great for flying. If you need a DVR, these are almost a total deal breaker on that one. The Falcon DVR did fine. It was kind of the middle of the road. The Topsky, I think, has the same DVR as the EV200D because it was just basically unusable. The band scanner. So if you only have one drone and you fly by yourself on the same channel all the time, this category doesn't matter at all. But I'm testing different models all the time. Sometimes I can tell what channel they came on, sometimes I can't. A lot of times I just have to use the scanner and try and guess. For that, the clear number one 100% winner by a mile is the Skyzones. Even though you can add other modules to these that will have different band scanners that have different qualities, none of them are even close to the Skyzone. The Skyzone just blows them all out of the water. A lot of these I ranked as just a straight 5 because it does vary depending on what's included, if anything is included at all. I ranked the EV200D a little bit lower because I'm going to assume in this case you're using the included modules. For the most part, those included modules are really good, so I'm assuming in that case you're less likely to replace them. The Aomway band scanner is actually very good too. It will connect in and it would find the right channel almost all the time, but it still pales in comparison to the Skyzone. So fogging on your face. How do they deal with fogging? Now, is having a fan a big deal? Because with a fan, it should improve the situation and make it so you can get rid of the fog very easily. But I'm gonna throw a curveball at you here. Okay, so now remember, for these final four, we're on a 5-point scale. The Skyzone, without the fan, actually got the best score for fogging. I've worn these a lot, a whole lot, and I have never had them fog on me. I've never needed a fan. They don't have a fan, oh no. I've never, ever needed a fan with those. Almost right behind it is the Commanders. I've used those a lot, and I have only had to turn on the fan once or twice. Very few times. For the most part, it's just not needed. The EV200Ds do very well too. I haven't had an experience yet where I had fogging on them. I could feel the humidity a little more for what it's worth, and they do have a fan available, so that still does very well. Especially that fan, I can feel it. Some of the others though, like the Falcons, they fogged a lot. That's the same problem I had personally. Again, this is a personal thing. These fogged a lot. The Dominators fogged up on me more than I was used to. Just flying them around, I felt the need to turn on the fan quite often. Topsky's had the same problem. They fogged on me a lot, just wearing them around. These threw out a lot of heat, and I felt like I had to have the fan on pretty much all the time when I used them. So here's a weird one. Comfort on forehead. In case you have noticed, I don't have any hair. So I wear mine on my head, and I don't have hair to cushion it. So this is actually a big deal to me. But if I'm wearing them around all day, I will go for the Skyzones because they have kind of a faux leather insert in them, so they're very comfortable to wear around. The EV200Ds and the Commanders. And you know, you might be wearing these on your forehead all day long. If you're at a race and you're one to just carry them around that way, it's actually a big deal. So the battery that it came with. Unfortunately, my notes aren't as good here as I'd hoped, but I've done a number of battery reviews, and here's the summary. The Dominator V3 battery is outstanding. You're either going to get the USB battery, which I absolutely love and have done my own review of, or you're going to get the 18650 battery case, which is also very, very good. It's not the best 18650 case, but it's very, very good. The Attitudes, by comparison, came with an old school FatShark battery that is just terrible and a terrible pain to charge, and I don't use it at all. The Commanders actually didn't come with a battery at all. They came with an adapter to use your LiPos, and I have ruined a number of LiPos on these stupid goggles because I forgot to unplug the battery. I'll do a lot of cases where I have the goggles on, I set them down, I put them on, I set them down, and then I move on to something else, and in the end I forget to unplug it. With those USB batteries, I don't ruin them. With the LiPo, I have ruined batteries, and it's super annoying. But the adapter that it comes with is convenient if you want to do that, because you can use a 2, 3, or 4S. The battery that came with the Topsky was actually really good. It was really well laid out. And the Skyzones also didn't come with a battery. They came with several sets of adapter cables that you could use. The Falcon actually came with a really, really nice battery case. It was really well laid out. It was really well done. It's an 18650 case, and it had some nice features like a power button over and above the Dominator even. And the battery on the Eachine EV200D was actually really good. It's really nice because it has a long strap, because the battery on this one and this one actually go behind your head, and the battery this came with had a long enough lead in order to make it fit behind your head but still connect, and it was USB charging, and it seemed to do a pretty good job. And last but not least, accessories. What else did they come with? All of them came with cases, but for the most part, they're not very usable. I recommend other cases to go with, especially if you fly with the FreeSky X-Lite. You can get a bag that holds both the X-Lite and your goggles to carry around. I really like that case. The standouts here are the Falcon. The Falcon came with a lot of accessories that were really nice and really convenient. The Skyzone, depending on when you get it and what the pricing is, comes with a whole 3D dual camera kit. Now sometimes that kit's more, sometimes it's not. It just depends on where and when you're looking. There are several faceplates available depending on what you like. I didn't like them at all with the one it came attached with. It was smaller than this. It was really, really small. But then you attach this faceplate for the larger faceplate, and that's what really makes them stand out. Final verdict of the 7 goggles that you can get for, we're gonna say $250 to $300 now. Number 1, for me personally, remember what I said, this is a personal decision. This is the one that I pick based off this information. Number 1 is the Skyzone Sky02, and this is going to surprise a lot of people. Unless you've been watching the channel, you know I wear these and use them all the time. These are my go-to goggles. They are, for me, the most consistent. I don't have to deal with a module possibly coming out. The reception is good enough. They don't ever fog. The DVR works nearly perfectly every time, which I hate losing DVR footage and just losing flights. It's so annoying. They are my number 1 with a total score of 73. Now remember, this is a 100-point scale. I'm pretty hard on these here. Right behind that, though, are the Aomway Commanders. The Aomway Commander V1s are still an outstanding option. They do great. They're nearly as good as the Skyzone, except for the picture for me just looks a little bit better on the Skyzones. Here's the deal for me specifically. I have to wear custom diopters in the Commanders to make them look right. The Skyzones I don't. These just never quite looked quite right in my personal eyes. In third place, one that I think will surprise some people is the Dominator V3s. The Dominator V3s, actually you don't hear about a lot, but the part that brought those up a lot is that warranty. To me, that's a big deal. I am super, super budget conscious, and if something happened to them, I would be heartbroken. That for me is the big pull of the Dominator V3s. If something happens to these, you have to get them fixed. They have to be fixed. Dominator V3s, right there. That's at a 68, just barely behind the Aomway Commanders. But if that warranty isn't a big deal for you, coming up next is the Eachine EV200Ds. Their score looks a lot lower, down at a 60, but really it's all in that warranty. Quality-wise, on a day-to-day basis, if warranty and budget don't matter, these look better than these to me. As long as you don't care about DVR, because the DVR in those is terrible. They've made some updates and hopefully they get it all fixed. But only 1 point behind that is the Falcon goggles. The Falcon goggles are actually good. They're just not special enough to really stick out in most people's heads. I think people just kind of forgot about them. They're good. They're just not spectacular. Then we jump down to the Attitude V4s. It actually does better than I expected, again, because of the warranty. A lot of people use these. A lot of people like them. They're actually, I mean, they're a cool red color. They look really nice. If you get a set with the brightness is all set right, I think they're actually pretty good as long as you're good with a 4x3 signal. I used to fly 4x3. I've switched over to 16x9. They are 4x3 only. And if you get a set that looks right, maybe I need to use that warranty and send them in and get them fixed. Maybe that's my deal, because they just don't look right to me. They come down in at a 56. And then I'm sorry, all the way at the bottom, even with their version 2, even with the camo version here, down at a 46 is the Topskys. They just don't do anything that well. Not by comparison once you lay them all out side by side. These are far, far improved over the version 1s, but they still just don't cut it. So there you go. It won't surprise anybody who watches this channel regularly that these were my number 1 pick. You see them on my head all the time. These are pretty much the ones I wear in every review because I need that DVR to work. I need that band scanner, and they're consistent, and I don't have to think about them when I'm doing the review. There are links for all the products and all the individual reviews down below. Remember that those were all recorded at different times, so they are not going to necessarily reflect exactly what I say today because opinions change over time. Those are first impressions usually. Here, looking at them side by side, hopefully you can get a better sense of what it is you want and what's most important to you for these. But if you found this useful, leave a like and a comment down below. I appreciate it when you use those links because I bought almost all of these goggles, and the ones I didn't don't reflect in the scores that they received. Actually, my top 3 goggles, I bought those. My bottom 2 were demos. So until next time, remember, I still recommend everybody starts with the EV800Ds. Those are the best first set of goggles.